Hello, my name is Dale from Planning Ahead of Time, and this week I'm speaking to Lisa. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Lisa Dundas and I'm an independent celebrant that lives in Coventry, and I mainly do funerals and memorials. I am also qualified for doing couples and naming ceremonies, but I prefer doing funerals.
It's quite strange to hear somebody say, I prefer doing funerals. I think that's quite, to some people, that could be quite a strange statement.
Yeah, I think it is, and I didn't realise actually that I would prefer funerals until I sort of did my qualifications, and I think it's I find it really meaningful. I think being able to give somebody the right goodbye, the right send off for the family is really important. You get one chance and one chance only at that. So yeah, I find it a real privilege actually being asked to do a funeral.
Is there something that led you into that?
I think we've probably all been to funerals where you've come out and gone, God, I could have done better than that, or other ones that have been, that was amazing because the person that stood at the front made it amazing. And for years, I've been sort of thinking about doing it. And with the wedding side as well, it was, I joked with friends, I'll do a Joey from Friends and I'll just do, one of these courses off the internet and be able to marry you, but you're not properly married. But during COVID, so in my previous career, I was a nanny and I've nannied for the same family for just over 4 years. And they were relocating. So my employers got a relocation during COVID over to Ireland. So it meant my job was going to be no more. And it was one of those that I went home and thought maybe this is the kick up the backside that I need to look into training for something that I'd been thinking about doing for ages. And I guess, I'd hit my 50s, and it was at one of those points in your life where you just think, oh, can I be bothered to train for something else? But do I want to carry on doing what I've been doing for years for the rest of my life? And the more I thought about it and the more I spoke to people about it, then, oh, you'd be great at doing that. So that's what led me to it, COVID.
Well, I have a little phrase that I probably can't repeat it on here, but it's a bit like I'm 50. And I think what happens then is you go, it's now or never. If you want to make
Yeah.
going to do it, you got to just get on and do it. So it sounds like you had a bit of one of those moments. However, you obviously had a little bit of a kick to get that to happen. And I do think for the big changes, often your hand does need to be forced a little bit, because we can so often just sit in that comfortable channel, can't we, and think, oh, we're all right, it's okay, but you just need a bit of a shove. So, well,
Yeah, 100%.
but that actually was just the start for you. So you do your celebrancy, but
I
that's
do.
also led you into other things.
Yeah, so what I realised when I first qualified was so many, and also I think it's from experience as well. So before becoming a celebrant, I'd had to unfortunately tell a friend's wife that he'd died very suddenly. It's a tragic story. Um, and they'd been married for, I think, something like 38 years. And he was on a mountain. I'd broken my leg, couldn't go on the mountain, but had to tell his wife that he died on this mountain, the backstory. And when I told her, one of the first things that she said was, I don't know whether he wanted to be buried or cremated. And that shocked me. So this is going back years before I'd sort of really thought about becoming a celebrant. And I thought, oh, have they never talked about it? And then, fast forward to being a celebrant, and so many people just don't talk about it. So again, during COVID,
Unspoken truth.
sorry,
It's the unspoken truth. The reality
complete,
that we're all going to die, but nobody wants to talk about it. This, as you know, is why I've done planning ahead of time, to try and say to people, you need to have these conversations. They're uncomfortable, but what's more uncomfortable is not knowing when you need to know. And obviously that's something you experience quite a lot then.
Yeah, and you know, another plus side of COVID was I could join lots of different death cafes that were online and get a flavour for them. And I decided that I needed to start some in Coventry. I think they have had them here in Coventry in the past, but they were sort of very few and far between. So I approached a venue which I really wanted to use, which is in the London Road Cemetery. So the London Road Cemetery is a Grade 1 listed cemetery in Coventry that Historic Coventry Trust took over and sort of upgraded. They made the footpaths better. They restored some of the old sort of headstones and things in there. And they restored the Anglican chapel, which had sat derelict and empty for years and years and years. And I just thought, what a fantastic venue to have a death cafe in the Anglican chapel in the middle of this beautiful graveyard, which is also an arboretum, because it was built as a graveyard and an arboretum on the edge of the city to bring greenery and places for people to walk during Victorian times.
I've never visited it. I think I maybe need a trip to Coventry. Sounds very nice.
It's a fantastic. It's beautiful. There's some lovely walks through it, and yes, some really interesting headstones and tombs and things there. So it's nice. It's beautiful.
Okay. So you started then a death cafe.
I started a death cafe. I approached Historic Coventry Trust to say, how much would it cost me to rent your beautiful building to run these death cafes? And unbeknownst to me, they were trying to get something up and running using that within the graveyard as well, within the cemetery, and came up with a 3-year plan of death cafes, ending up with a festival at the end of the 3 years, which is what I'm working towards at the moment.
Yes, well, that's this coming May, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's a weekend. It's Friday night to Sunday afternoon of anything and everything that you can think of to do with death, dying, funerals, and ultimately living, really.
But there has been an in-between, hasn't there? So you did a one-day fair last year, is that right?
Yes, so I did a 1-day fair. So that was just on the Saturday last year. And I had a talks programme and stalls. So the stalls that I had there were alternatives within the funeral industry. So a lot of people, when somebody dies, they just go to the first funeral director that they think of, which may not necessarily be the right choice for them. And I think people don't realise that they have choices. So I'm really passionate about, allowing people, letting people know that there are different choices out there. You don't just have to have your bog standard sort of plywood coffin, that looks like it's got brass handles on, but they're actually plastic. You can have something much more personalised and more meaningful.
I completely agree with you. I do think that, as you say, people are going through the grief, so they're just often going through the motions, and that is go to the most known funeral directors and follow their lead. And often they will, again, no disrespect, but will take you down a plan that, if you like, is sort of the most known, the most accepted, because it does take more to actually look into some of the alternatives. But you do need to know what that person would have wanted for that.
Definitely, and to know in advance.
Alternatives, yeah.
When you haven't got that raw emotion, because when you're newly bereaved and you have that initial meeting, you're sort of bamboozled. You're almost like, I'll take anything just to get it booked and get it sorted. and you don't need to do that, and people don't know that.
No, and I think you've got now sort of the direct cremations, and people sometimes feel that it's just easier for family, or the family feel they can't cope with it and they will take that route. But I know personally for me, the funeral that we had at the end of last year for my mum was just incredible. And it was such a wonderful goodbye day, or farewell, I suppose, but it was also such a celebration. And I think it helped me and my family no end to actually be able to do that and be part of that.
Yeah.
And it was quite different. And we had part of it in a church and part of it in a crematorium. And we mixed it up completely and gave flowers out during the church service and things which were quite different. And yet then you end up with such a wonderful day that I look back on so fondly. And I've got pictures of me and my two sort of best friends from school laughing and joking at the wake afterwards. And I look at them and think, yeah, it was a lovely day.
Yeah.
You can do that if you're willing to take some of those alternatives. So it's lovely that you're promoting that and having that at these fairs to basically give people the knowledge they need.
Definitely, so many people. I mean, it's almost like the wrong way around, really, that families go to a funeral director and the funeral director will book me or another celebrant, and by the time you get to meet the family, there's already decisions being made, and they didn't know they could have anything else. So I think having that conversation beforehand, and having things like Death Cafe where people talk really openly about that, and knowing what is open to them and making it an open conversation, so people have this knowledge. It doesn't necessarily have to be me that they book as a celebrant, but to know that they've got this like freedom within the service, that it doesn't have to be rigid, and the choices that are there for them, and make it a celebration.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I mean, from a death cafe, people hear the word death cafe, and again, the word death, and they're scary words to people, and they can fear actually just going to one. But I've been to one. They're quite different to a grief cafe. I feel that the two are different significantly. So when people come, you're talking and about options, giving them ideas, alternatives, just talking through to help them with their plans.
It's not even that structured. It's nobody leads it. So although I'm facilitating it and I welcome everybody, I sort of ask if anybody's got a question that they want to ask to start the conversation off. And 2 hours later, I have to say, okay, that's, we happen to wrap this up now because we're finishing. So it's like most people there have never met before. But, it depends how big the table is. But sometimes conversations, like when you're out with a group of friends, break off and a little group will have their own little conversation and they'll come back. But the majority of the time, the whole table sort of gives their input. And that's the great thing, because there's people from different walks of life with all different experiences. We've all, no matter what age we are, have experienced grief and death on some level. There might be some that have been very narrowly touched by it, and some that have had, really horrendous stories. But I think everybody's got experience, and everybody's got thoughts, and everybody's got beliefs that don't necessarily have to be religious beliefs, but just beliefs of what they think is going to happen to you after you die, or not. And that's what it is. It's a conversation that isn't led. It's not promoting anything. I'm not there to promote myself, and other people that come in that work within the industry are not there to promote themselves. But of course, we've all got experience that we can bring in and say, well, no, did you know that you can do this and this? So, yeah, they're just conversations over tea and coffee and cake.
Always, bit of coffee and cake.
Yeah.
Always helps the conversation, doesn't it? So with regards to the festival then, because that's coming up, it's in only a few months now. So are you still looking for people to have stands or speak? What is it you are looking for now, and what do people do?
Yeah, so I'm looking for different people that work within the funeral industry, whether it be way on the fringes or sort of more mainstream. Sort of anything really. I mean, we're limited to some degree with space, but I'm open to anybody getting in touch and having a conversation. And if it's not suitable for them to have a stall, maybe they can do a talk because we've got a talks program, and different things that we'll have scattered around the London Road Cemetery as well. So, things like,
Sorry, so the
sorry?
festival is being held at the London Road Cemetery as well.
Yeah, it's being held at the London Road Cemetery as well. So we're sort of swapping it. Last year we had all the stalls inside and we had the talks in a covered tent outside. But we're swapping that around this year so we can get more stalls outside, the talks program be inside. We found it was a bit noisy, sort of outside, because there was walking tours as well around the cemetery. So they're historic, telling the history of the cemetery. We have, and she's going to be there this time, Kaz from Wild Heart Coffins, who weaves willow coffins. So she'll be there and you can have a go
Yeah.
doing that. Compassionate Voices, which are a group of amazing singers who sing over the people that are dying. And they're going to be doing a couple of workshops so you can join in and learn a couple of their songs. So yeah, walking tours, talks, stalls, anything and everything to do with funerals. And that's on the Saturday. On the Friday night,
what's the date? Do you want to just clarify for people the date?
yeah, so with the 3rd of May until the 5th of May. So the 3rd's a Friday, and in the Anglican Chapel we've got a play called Tell It to the Bees, which I love bees, and I just love this, that in folklore, if you're a beekeeper, you have to tell your hive of bees that somebody's died, or else they leave the hive. So this is all around that.
Okay. So
yeah.
if people want more information, where do they go to find it? Whether it's for you for your celebrancy, whether it's the Death Cafe, whether it's for the festival, where do they go?
So they can look on my Facebook page, so it's Lisa Dundas Funeral Celebrant, or on Instagram, I think it's just Lisa Dundas Celebrant. Historic Coventry Trust as well are the people that have sort of funded this, or they've got the funding for this. So I'm doing it in partnership with them. So Historic Coventry Trust website as well. So it'll be over social media. I've just put out today the play, which is people have to buy a ticket for that. The Saturday, turning up for the talks and the stalls and things, that will be free. And then on the Sunday, the 5th, there's yoga for grief in the morning. That's payable as well before. And then I've got a death cafe in the afternoon on the 5th.
It's like a fantastic full program that you've got going on. You see, you and I have also been talking about me being there or doing something at the festival.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So coming to have a look as well as doing something with you. But it sounds really good. It sounds like everything you're doing is so helpful to people, and that's what they need. They need help.
Completely. And I think last year doing the festival, the fair, the 1 day thing, it was one of those things. On the morning of it, I was thinking, oh gosh, is anybody going to turn up? Because you know what it's like when you work within this sort of industry, because people do sort of walk away from talking about death. But you know what, it was such a fantastic day that we had so many people. And then somebody at the end said, do you know what? She goes, I've had really good fun today. She goes, and I never thought I'd say that.
Is it? People do expect it to be really heavy, really morbid, and it's just not. When you talk to people in the end of life industry, that is just not how they are.
Not at all.
Everybody just has this lovely, in my opinion, way about them where they just want to be helpful, they want to be of service to people, and most have gone through an experience that's been the catalyst to them being in this role which makes them have an empathy as well and an understanding. And I find it such a, I call it an industry, which may be wrong, but I find it a lovely industry to be involved in, because everybody is just wanting to be of service to others. So it sounds fantastic what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to being at it. So basically, I'm just going to say it. So it's Lisa Dundas, and that's spelled Dundas.
It is, yeah.
Find you on Facebook or Instagram, you've just said. Do you have a website at all for it? Or
I do, yeah. So it's www.lisadundascelebrant.co.uk.
Okay, that's lovely. Well, I'll also add the details at the end, but Lisa, it's been really nice to speak with you. So thank you very much for making the time.
No, thank you for asking me. It's been amazing. Thank you.